This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, Heather, ho there. Jeff Gooder Dive and welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. Finally, you say, hey, you're doing it on this day. Yep, because the topics for the previous days have been covered for the Superstars, and I can't do much. But anyway, today is February the 12th, and today, well, it's February 12th, but not 2010. But in 2010, that's when Vancouver started hosting the Olympic Games. It's the third time Canada got the Olympics. Canada had the Olympics in 1976 in Montreal and 1988 in Calgary. So that's kind of key in a sense. The sensibility. So anyhow, Vancouver got the Olympics in 2003. Tradition dictates that 7 years before the specific Olympics event, that's when you vote. Vancouver was facing a tough competition from Pyongyang's North Korea. Sorry, I keep getting those mixed up. There were three big supporting bids. It was Vancouver, Pyeongchang, that being South Korea, and Salzburg, Austria. The first round of voting, South Korea, Pyeongchang had it 51. However, the rule was you needed more than 50%, and Vancouver had 40, Salzburg had 16. So that meant 51 for Pyeongchang, 56 for the other two combined, which meant the 50% rule did not happen. So guess what? They missed. So anyway, the fact of the matter was that Vancouver defeated Pyeongchang 56-53 in the final round of voting. Basically, everyone who voted for Salzburg -2 went for Vancouver instead of Korea. The good news for Pyeongchang is that they would get their Olympics in 2018. But anyway, yeah, so Canada hosted the Olympics. Now, there are some stats I will throw in right now. It's one of the most successful Olympic Games in history by attendance and coverage. But again, it's only 13 years ago. 2,600 athletes from 82 countries in 86 events and 15 disciplines. Yep, Canada had their third Olympics, the 76 Summer Olympics in Montreal, which, that monstrosity of a stadium happened in the 1988 Winter Olympics in Calgary. That were pretty good and all that. So anyway, it was very popular. 97% of the tickets were sold, if you will. And 114 million people watched the gold medal hockey game on the final day of the year. Now, the biggest thing coming into Vancouver was Canada's lack of gold medals in the two Olympics that they hosted. They didn't win any gold medals in Montreal. They ended up winning, 5 silver and 6 bronze, if memory serves me right? And in Calgary, they couldn't win a gold medal, too. Canada did win the women's curling event, but that's a demonstration sport. And golds don't count, despite what Bob Costas would say in a Simpsons episode. I will get to that Simpsons episode, too. But anyway. So Canada on day 2 got their gold medal thanks to Alex Bilodeau, who I did it on this day about last year. So anyway, Canada crushed everything and actually ended up winning 14 gold medals, which was becoming the first host nation since Norway in 1952, and also to lead the gold medal count. Not even the Americans I don't think Russia's never had the Russia had never had the Winter Olympics before 2014, but that's a different story. Anyway, they put up 14 gold medals. That was actually the record. The record of 13 was set by the 2002 Norway country and 1976 Soviet Union. The Americans did win the most medals in total. They only did it. That was only the second time they led the Winter Olympics medal count in history. And that's amazing because, the Summer Olympics is usually them. So they put up 37 medals, the most ever. Slovakia and Belarus got Olympic gold medals for the first time. So anyway, operational costs were $1.35 billion, but then it moved up to $1.76 billion. The only problem with the post-games was that, they made the Olympic Village and tried to make it into condos, which ruined it. Vancouver finally broke even by 2020. So anyway, Vancouver had some great events and all that. The biggest issue was the temperature because Vancouver has an average temperature in February of 4.8 Celsius compared to most cities like Calgary and Toronto, even Toronto. That's very high and all that. So anyway, this was the first time, well, the 2010 Olympics started, and this was the first time that the opening ceremony was held indoors at BC Place Stadium, which could actually have a retractable roof like that would open. Anyway, places like the Richmond Olympic Oval, Cypress Mountain, UBC Winter Sports Center, and the Pacific Coliseum hosted things. Vancouver Arena, GM Place / Rogers Arena, played host to the hockey events. Unfortunately, they're not. For the Olympics, they were called Canada Hockey Place because corporate sponsorship is not allowed for an Olympic venue. And of course, you have to remove the advertising from the ice surface and all that. The 2010 Olympics held the first time that the Olympic hockey events would be held on a NHL-sized rink instead of international specifications. They were trying to market it and all that. This was the first time CTV would broadcast the Olympics after taking over from CBC. And it was like shocking that CBC usually always had the Olympics on. All that. CTV would host events. TSN and Sportsnet would also help, even though that TSN and Rogers and Sportsnet were from rival companies, Bell and Rogers, respectively. NBC would do the Olympics. Well, who else does the Olympics in the U.S. other than NBC nowadays? There was the big torch relay and all that. And 82 Olympic committees would be in the Winter Olympics. For the first time, Cayman Islands, Colombia, Ghana, Montenegro, Pakistan, Peru, and Serbia sent athletes to the Winter Games. Jamaica, Mexico, and Morocco would bring athletes to the Games too. Tonga won it here. They saw its Winter Olympic debut by entering someone in luge, but unfortunately he crashed in qualifying. Luxembourg had 2 athletes, the small country of Luxembourg, but did not participate because one did not reach the criteria set by the NOC and the other was injured before the Games. So yeah, you had all these countries and all that. You had a lot of, you had major differences. You had biathlon, bobsleds, as in you ride in a bobsled, like a sled down a course. Skeleton, when you ride down a sled, but you lay on your stomach and you have to steer with your feet. Curling, of course, hockey, luge is the opposite of skeleton. It's when you lay down on a sled, feet first, and try to go down the course. Figure skating, short track, speed skating, which is basically roller derby or nice as people call it. Speed skating, alpine skiing, as in skiing down mountains, cross country skiing, through the mountains. Freestyle skiing, such as moguls and big air. Nordic combining ski jumping and cross country skiing. Well, of course, ski jumping and snowboarding. So it was just amazing, all that. So anyway, it is what it is. Well, there were some events that were rejected. Biathlon mixed relay, men and women there. Mixed doubles curling was rejected. Team alpine skiing was rejected. Team bobsled and skeleton, team luge were rejected. I think they did team luge. But anyway, women's ski jumping even was ruined and all that. So anyway, yeah, the competitions happened. Canada won the most golds with 14. Germany took second. The Americans and Norwegians took third. Well, Germany had 10. U.S. and Norway only had 9. It was just shocking that Russia didn't win so many gold medals. That was unusual. So that was actually shocking because, Russia ended up only winning 15 medals, 3 golds. But of course, because of that performance, Russia needed to step up their game. And that's possibly one of the major roles in the Sochi doping problems from 2014 and their subsequent banishment from many international events. And that's just before Russia's invasion on Ukraine. So yeah, so Russia, I think, kind of was butthurt with the performance of Vancouver, and then they needed to do Sochi. There were some controversies, especially with the way they treated the indigenous people and also the homeless. So anyway, yeah, all that. And of course, one of the biggest problems was, well, there was a big recession in the late 2000s. And then, of course, that luge competitor from Georgia, Nodar, and I am going to butcher this name, Cutastrophe, was killed during a training run, and there was questions about the organization. The officials did attribute it to an athlete error rather than a track problem. Anyway, it didn't matter. So they changed the luge and actually moved the starting gates down track more so. Yeah, so a lot of people were opposed to the Olympics and all that. I mean, after all, you know, it might bankrupt the city, which it kind of did for Vancouver, all that. So anyway, yeah. There's still the legacy. The celebratory crowds in downtown Vancouver was highly praised by the LAOC. And a good atmosphere. It was actually the most watched Winter Olympics since Lillehammer in '94. And they had a very good atmosphere and all that. And a lot of people criticized the celebrations as being nationalistic. All that. A lot of people said, well, when London did it for the British thing in 2012, it was weird. Anyway, yeah, funding was there. Usage of venues, well, all the venues were designed with their post-game things in mind and all that. So, yeah. So February 12th was when the Olympics started in Vancouver, and it was a nice ceremony. The only problem was that the way they were doing the official lighting of the Olympic cauldron in Vancouver, one of the things actually malfunctioned, so it wasn't completely perfect. So, as I said, Canada took 2 days to break their duck of not winning a gold medal on home ice during the Olympics. And they did. They won, thanks to Alex Bilodeau's Mogul's performance, in which his older brother Friedrich, who had cystic fibrosis, or is it CF or CP? No, I think it's cerebral palsy. Is it cerebral palsy or cystic fibrosis? I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, he was there too. It was amazing. And Friedrich almost went up to the podium with his brother, but the IOC said no. But Canada, winning 14 Olympic gold medals. They won some key events, a few snowboarding things. Curling, the men's team won easily over Norway. The women's team actually had a chance to win the gold medal, but on the final end, missed a key turn. Cheryl Bernard, unfortunately, would lose the gold in the extra end. A few Canadian disappointments. Short track speed skating was pretty impressive. Figure skating, Joanne Rochette, winning that special award for winning the bronze medal, but she did it because her mother passed away the previous week, and she chose to compete, and it was just huge how she would compete with her mother gone and all that. I would never have done that, but as is, some magic moments. And of course, let's not forget about Canada, USA in hockey. Final day of the Olympics was the gold medal hockey game. And Canada survived a desperation move by Slovakia, where unfortunately, Pavel Dimitra hit the post in overtime. And it would have been overtime. if he had scored. Unfortunately, Dimitrov died the next year in that locomotive crash. So yes, Canada-US, it was huge. Canada was anticipating about 15 million watching on CTV the final and all that. What else were you going to watch on the final day of the Olympics? Unfortunately for me, I got stuck at work at Sellers, so I couldn't watch the game live. But of course, Canada had that 2-0 lead and choked it. It was 2-2, went to overtime, and we all know that golden goal by Crosby. Iggy! He scores, Canada wins 3-2 and wins their 14th gold medal. And everywhere went nuts. Like Kitchener went nuts and all that. I had a pair of Canadian flags that I took to work with me and all that. And, you know, people were honking their horns at me and all that. It was like, yes, we won gold, we won gold, we won gold. It was a great time to be alive. Now, rumors are circulating Canada might get the 2030 Winter Games. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But that's hope. Anyway, I'm Jeff. I'm going to do.